Hello everybody, my name is Kyle. I'm with KiTiK Music, and today I'm going to show you how to use JUCE to make LV2 plugins, as well as an announcement that I am now supporting LV2 plugins so that you can use my plugins in Linux. I do say start supporting because with this port, not everything works as intended, but I do have a couple that work. So I'll get into that in a minute. I will also be going over and how I use that to make the LV2s. If you're more interested in that, I'll put a timestamp down below so you can go right there. But before we get into that, I'm just going to show you what I'm up against and what LV2 support I have. So on the screen now, you can see a program called Carla. It's just a little patch bay that lets you test out plugins. So the two plugins that I will be able to support right out the box is Disperser and QuickRef. Unfortunately, with Distort, Mangler, and ChopChop, all of them use the drag to drop, and Linux really doesn't like that. I'll show you real quick what Distort does. So here's Distort over here, and if I move this guy out of the way and grab Vital, we can put stuff through here. And everything, you know, it goes through, it works fine. If I crank this up, crank this down, you can hear there's a little distortion, it's a little louder. I'm not going to open Vital because Carla doesn't like Vital. But the problem is here is if I click on any of these, they don't seem to work. If I drag them, it kind of breaks everything. They're still sort of, kind of, maybe there. Linux just doesn't like the drag and drop. So if people are interested and would like Linux support with this stuff, I'm totally willing to do that. I'll probably have to make a fork of all three of those and see if I can figure out a better way to do it that doesn't include the drag and drop. I know Distort in the past had one where he wouldn't let you rearrange it, but then that would work. So if anyone's interested, I'll do that. But for now, just those two, and as I make new plugins, I'll port them into LV2. Now, I'm going to switch over here to VS Code. And let's make this bigger for you guys. So here is my CMake. Now, to use CMake, you first have to install it. That'd be a good start. As well, I would recommend the CMake extensions that Visual Studio Code has. This will just automatically download it for you. So this CMake one is very important. It lets you go in with a folder, which compiler you want to use, debug list, build list, all sorts of stuff right there, as well as CMake testing, so you can do any debugging. So I'd recommend installing that with VS Code. And then in your main root file here, so we can see we got my source and my assets, make exactly as this says, cmakelist.txt. This is on my GitHub, my plugin template, if you want to use any of it. But right now, we'll go through here real quick. And I'll just mostly focus on setting it up for JUCE. I won't go over too much of the CMake stuff. So first things first, we have a CMake minimum requirement. This just checks to make sure you have it installed with a relatively new version. Here, if it's a Linux, I have it set up to the G++ compiler. If you are new to Linux, make sure you have this installed because you might not and run into issues. And then here, I have it set up for, depending on what I'm building on, what type of VST formats or plugin formats I want. So if it's Apple, we want the standalone for testing, AU VST3 LV2. If not, I take off the AU. You could also do, if you don't want to really worry about LV2 unless you're building on Linux, you could do an LSIF with Linux that includes the LV2 and take these guys out. It's up to you. Here, you just name your project, pretty simple, and then this is letting you know you're using C++17. I know this is a little old. 20, 23, or 26 are obviously options. This is if you're using Xcode. I try not to, but if you do, that's there. And a global property for folder use, which is important, so keep that in there as well. Now, when we are building a JUCE plugin in CMake, we need to get JUCE, obviously. So I know some other videos like to use CPM, the package manager. I have had, it's been hit or miss with me if that stuff's any good or not. So I got a friend who told me about fetch content that seems to just come with CMake, and I prefer that. So first we got to include fetch content so that CMake knows what it is, and then we just do a simple fetch declare. This is the name. This can be whatever you want it. It would make sense to name it JUCE since that's what you're grabbing, but this doesn't necessarily matter. Where you want to get it, which if you want the master or the development branch. And then get shallow on will just allow it to grab it faster. And then you simply make available JUCE. And boom, you can use that repository in JUCE and set up everything that you need to set up. Down here too, I was playing with trying to import a different FFT library. You know, just another example. Get the Git if they support CMake, main, on, and make available. But that's just for something I was working on. You don't need that to make JUCE. Now, here is another important aspect. So as you know, I do have the source files over here. Let this drop down. We got the editor and the processor, a utility that I use, and the GUI, just my general GUI stuff that I like to use. And all you have to do here is call the set command, call it source files or whatever you want, and then where all of the files you want to link to your project. Pretty simple. Make sure you get this exactly right. If you get an 1120 linker error, that probably means one of these is misspelled or is tracing to the wrong folder. So this is what I have. Obviously, you only really need these for. The rest of these are just stuff that I load in because I will probably use, and then if I don't want them, I'll take them out later. All right. Now, here is the important part. JUCE add plugin. Now, if you're used to the Pro Juicer, you would know that this is where you would just set up all the information about the new plugin you want when you hit new plugin. This is how you do that all in here. There is more options here for adding a plugin than just what you see here, but this is a good start. So you start with your company name, anything related to synths or MIDIs, replace VST2, you know, just certain things that you may or may not need. I have these blanks because I don't have one right now. Here in formats, this is what you set up at the top initially. So we set it inside a variable called formats, and then when I call this string, it'll read which one I want and throw it in there. Whatever your product name is. This was initially meant to be some sort of grain delay. We'll see where that comes out. And then with the LV2. Now this is pretty simple. All you got to add is this LV2 URI and shared library name. The name can just be the name of your plugin, and the URI is just the GitHub link or wherever you back this up to. So I would make a repository there first before you do this, obviously. But as you make a repository, you can point to it, and JUCE will make the LV2 helper. It's really that simple. A few more things. Here's your source group of this is basically going into your current directory and grabbing that source files you defined earlier so you can use them. This target sources allows you to build them, as the comment says, so I just keep that. And then here's how you include assets. I'll go back to Carla real quick. As you can see with Distort, I have Distort in a fancy font here, and I have my logo up here. Assets are what allow you to do that. So I have it up here as well. You can see those two right here. So we're going to create a file, and you can just copy kind of how it looks here with your glob, and that's what I call asset files. And then basically I go into the current directory, go into my assets, and the star means grab everything, and then JUCE add binary data, which is you want. You know, it's called assets, and it's from the sort of the asset files that we just described up here. Here's a Linux set target properties that you can copy over if you want. We have some compile definitions that just help with the build. And then the last thing is the link libraries, and this allows you to actually access everything in JUCE. Now you don't need all of these. You should probably get rid of some of them. Like if you're not going to use any DSP from JUCE, just get rid of that so you don't waste time compiling it. Of course, you could just add everything and then delete it when you're done. Make sure to include your assets and then any other dependencies, like this is the KFR was that FFT library I was messing around with earlier. That allows you to access and build any of that. And that is my CMake file. Like I said, all of that is on GitHub for you to look at. If you don't want to look at this whole video, I'll put that down there in the description. I like CMake a lot. It allows you to use the same editor. You don't have to go from Visual Studio to Xcode to be able to run any of this, and then you need to kind of use VS Code in on Linux anyways, so you might as well just do a CMake and keep it congruent across everything. Of course, you can still use Visual Studio Code and Xcode if that's what you like, but it keeps everything the same no matter what platform you're on. And all you have to do is just kind of load it into VS Code with open folder, and it builds the CMake file for you, as you can see down here. It calls this super long, let's see if I can find it. Yes, it calls this super long command down here to build. It'll just do that for you, build everything out, and then all you got to do is hit build to see it, or just hit the run to see it pop up. Problem with Linux is that you'll need Carla to test it. You can't test it straight out of here. That's another downside of programming on Linux, but I got Windows and Mac machines and all sorts of stuff. This is just more for LV2 testing. But anyways, I'll stop rambling. I hope you enjoyed. Make sure you subscribe. I'll be doing stuff with updates for my plugins, or new stuff I'm working on, or new tricks that I find out or want to talk about. I know it obviously doesn't work on Linux, this toolbar, but it works on Windows and Mac, and it was a pain trying to figure out. So I want to make a video that's just showing you how to make it simple, how the JUCE toolbar works, so you don't have to suffer like I did. But anyways, I hope you enjoyed this, and I will catch you in the next one.